So, I was watching one of Nerdslayer Studios' Death of a Game videos. Really awesome videos, by the way. But the game being covered kind of confused me a little bit. As dead, this one most certainly is not. Slowly dying then? No, not really that either. It's got a small but consistent and very dedicated player base, and there's always 2 or 3 servers populated at almost any time of day. See, the developers may have abandoned it, but its player base most certainly has not. Dirty Bomb is far from dead, and that, my friends, is a fact. Oh, I hope you like semi-related tangents. Here's one coming up now. So, there's 2 other games I want to have a quick look at first before I get back to the main attraction. The first one is Mirror's Edge, released in 2008 on consoles and 2009 on PC, the original parkour game. If you think of parkour games on a spectrum, with one end being pure free running and literally nothing else, and the other end being a full-on FPS with a few parkour mechanics thrown in to enhance the overall combat experience, Mirror's Edge was a true trailblazer, and it showed developers that parkour can be integrated into a first-person shooter or an action-adventure title with excellent results. Still play that game to this day, you know. But it's a game that came after this that's of most interest to us in this particular subgenre. A game on the opposite end of the parkour FPS spectrum to Mirror's Edge, that game being Brink. Released in 2011, Brink was Splash Damage's first attempt to meld a Mirror's Edge style parkour system with fast-paced FPS combat in a unique setting, and people were fucking hyped for Brink's release. Might be something to do with showing people trailers like this. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a bloody good trailer, still one of the best I've seen, I'd say, to this day. What it isn't, however, at all, is remotely accurate or honest. There's no gameplay here. I'm also guessing that however many people at Splash Damage had to spend a fair amount of time creating the animation, time which could have been, and honestly really should have been, spent on improving or fixing Brink's many shortcomings. I wouldn't go as far as to say that the game feels unfinished, but I will say it feels severely unpolished and far more bare bones than I or anyone else expected it to be. If you judge by the the review scores and the sort of general critical reception at the time, it was mixed at best, let's say. Now, my expectations for this game going in were not particularly high to begin with, but even still, the emotion that this game evokes the most when I think of it really is just disappointment. You know, there's so much that could have been. Like the idea, the concept of it is just absolutely fucking brilliant, but the overall execution leaves a lot to be desired. It's a real shame. Now, Brink never got a direct sequel, which is probably a good thing. Or I should say, not exactly, but we did get something much better than Brink 2. See, with the lessons that they'd learned during the development and release of Brink, Splash Damage went back to the drawing board to start work on their next game. A game that retains some of the parkour elements and fast-paced combat of Brink, but ditches the rest of it. A game that I believe is Splash Damage's best creation to date. This is what Brink should have been, what it could have been. A truly unique setting and concept, and a massive cast of playable mercenaries, each with their own abilities, weapons and attributes. It's fast, frantic, it is fucking fantastic. Welcome, one and all, to Dirty Bomb. So, Dirty Bomb is set in modern day London, which is a shattered city, really. It's been decimated, dealing with the aftermath of, you guessed it, a dirty bomb detonation. And a dirty bomb is basically a combination of a conventional explosive and a radioactive payload. So it detonates the explosion and then spreads the radiation, for hundreds of miles in every direction. Yeah, pretty nasty stuff. London obviously is evacuated, and a newly made government body, calling themselves the Central Disaster Authority, or CDA as they're more commonly known, starts hiring groups of mercenaries and sends them into the city as part of an attempt to fix and cover up the radiation incident from the general public and any prying government eyes. Meanwhile, a criminal syndicate calling themselves Jackal seems to have formed in the inner city, and they too hire a group of mercenaries, these ones being tasked with stealing CDA technology, blowing up their secret facilities, and generally causing as much chaos as possible in the name of profit. These two factions have come to a standoff, and intense firefights between CDA and Jackal-aligned mercenaries have broken out all over the ruined city. So, that's the situation we find ourselves in story-wise. Now you're all clued up, we can finally start to murder our way through these irradiated London streets. Sounds like fun. But before we can get into the main game overview, we need to answer a simple question. What is Dirty Bomb? Dirty Bomb is a fast-paced, team-based FPS with movement and tactical shooter elements. So in terms of speed, Dirty Bomb is roughly in the middle of the axis. If you have slower games like Counter-Strike and Halo at one end and faster games like Titanfall 2 and Doom Eternal at the other, then in the middle you have games like Dirty Bomb, Team Fortress 2 and Overwatch. There are two game modes to choose from, these being Objective and Stopwatch. Objective consists of two teams, the attackers and the defenders, these being Jackal and CDA respectively. Both teams have their own separate set of objectives they must complete in order to win the match. So for example, the attacking team might have to plant C4 in a control center and then steal some data cores, while it's up to the defenders to stop them until the timer winds down to 0, and each map has its own unique series of objectives. There also used to be a third game mode called Execution, a sort of team deathmatch mode, where the attackers had the goal of either wiping out the enemy team or planting a bomb, and the defenders had to stop them. But this game mode was cut at some point during the game's beta phase, and is now no longer playable. The game consists of 23 mercs and 9 playable maps, and each merc has their own unique personality and set of abilities, and can be divided up into 5 distinct categories: Assault, Engineer, Fire Support, Medic and Recon. Arguably the most important aspect of the game are its playable mercenaries or mercs. As I said, there are 5 categories they can be divided up into, and the first one we'll have a look at are the Medics. These are, as the name would suggest, classes with a healing and reviving role. While all medics have shared attributes, such as being fast moving and having the ability to revive downed teammates whilst giving them some of their health back, each one also has their own unique special abilities, voice lines and personalities. Aura, a fast talking country girl from Texas, tends to favour shotguns and can place down a healing station that constantly heals anyone standing close to it. Phoenix, an unorthodox medic from Spain, has a healing pulse that is similar to the healing station in that it is an area of effect ability, but instead of a slow but constant stream of health, the healing pulse is a rapid single-use item. Sparks, a criminal forger from Russia, has the ability to throw down health packs and heal allies or shoot down enemies from afar with her minigun. Guardian, a South Korean doctor with state-of-the-art technology at her fingertips, can throw down a sky shield that blocks all incoming particles and utilises a bionic pulse that can heal friendlies from afar, a little bit like Sparks' medigun, but single use. Note that when I say something is single use, I mean one use then a cooldown period as it recharges, not one use only for the whole match. And finally, there's Sawbones, a disgraced former soldier who was thrown out of the army for anaesthetising and then removing his commanding officer's kidney. Yes, really. You can throw down large health packs and use his defibrillator pads as a melee weapon. As a medic, the best tactic is to stay near the front line without getting too close to enemies and dishing out revives and heals to teammates to keep the team up and running, whilst using their high speed and agility to dodge enemy fire in order to avoid being in need of a revive themselves. The second class category is Assault, which consists of highly armoured, slow moving mercs who can dish out an insane amount of damage, encouraging good positioning and an aggressive playstyle. Fragger, a decorated American veteran who favours light machine guns, can throw frag grenades that can be cooked or held with a delay to allow for a faster detonation but with a greater risk of damage. Nader, a German ex-soldier, wields a grenade launcher similar to the primary weapon of the Demo Man in Team Fortress 2. She can shoot fast moving grenades for major close quarters damage, suppression and crowd control. She also has the Martyrdom ability that allows her to detonate herself once she's been downed, killing anyone standing too close. Rhino is an absolute unit of a man, and of all the assault classes he has the slowest movement and the highest damage output. He wields a minigun that will slow him down even further, but allows you to eviscerate enemies with a deadly bullet hose. The minigun has no cooldown period, but it will overheat if fired for too long, so Rhino is ideal for area denial or mowing through heavily guarded choke points. Ex-Spetsnaz operative Thunder also favours LMGs and has the ability to throw a concussion grenade, allowing him to debilitate and slow down enemies, making them easy pickings for the rest of the team. The third category are the Engineers, who can perform certain actions such as planting or defusing C4, repairing or destroying generators, or fixing the EV considerably faster than any other type of merc. Bushwhacker used to be a teacher before deciding to use his brain to find out the smartest way to fire bullets instead. He has a deployable turret that will lock onto and kill enemies, and this is most useful when placed around blind corners or at choke points. He's essentially the TF2 engineer with a level 2 sentry gun. Fletcher, a cocky Nigerian combat engineer, favours shotguns and makes use of remotely detonated sticky bombs. These bombs can be used both defensively to protect narrower doors or entranceways, and also offensively to clear out enemies from an entrenched position to allow the team to move forward. Proxy, an English assassin and explosives expert, has the ability to lay down proximity mines that are detonated when an enemy steps on or near them. Proxy is fast, agile and particularly effective around corners and at narrow bottlenecks where people might be less inclined to check what they're stepping on. Proxy is a glass cannon, and when playing as her, the ideal strategy is to always stay mobile, keep people on their toes and use parts of the map itself as an advantage, rather than engaging in protracted firefights or staying in one place for too long. Turtle is another highly agile engineer who has the ability to place down a defensive laser shield to stop or reduce the damage of incoming projectiles, and this will halt the movement of any armament smaller than a missile. The fourth category is Fire Support, classes with medium level speed and health who play, as the name suggests, a support role, dishing out airstrikes and ammo where needed. Arty, a Chinese mercenary even before the bombs dropped, wields an artillery strike marker, essentially a precision airstrike, and the ability to put down an ammo dispenser to keep the team stocked up with bullets. Javelin, a fearsome Norwegian soldier, makes use of a rocket launcher and passively supplies ammo to surrounding teammates. Kira, a Japanese former PhD researcher in possession of some cutting edge technology, wields an orbital laser excellent for area denial and the ability to place down an ammo station. Skyhammer, a veteran fire support controller from Scotland, has an airstrike marker and ammo packs. And Stoker, my favourite class of them all, and the one that's been shown in most of this background footage, is an upper class Brit with a love for napalm. He can throw a Molotov grenade to destroy buildings or burn enemies to a crisp, and he also has the ability to set down an ammo station. And last but not least is the Recon class category, consisting of long range and stealth classes. French sniper and ex-bodyguard Amy wields, you guessed it, a sniper rifle. She also has a snitch module, which is an area of effect projectile that causes any enemy tag bite to receive increased damage and slowed movement. Hunter, an American survivalist, has a prosthetic crossbow attached to his arm that can fire one of two projectile types: standard bolts for skewering other mercs, and EMP bolts used to take out buildings, for example Bushwhacker's sentry gun. Charging up the weapon's tactical scope by zooming in for a prolonged period of time will deal increased damage, not unlike the charge shot mechanic utilised by TF2's sniper class. Red Eye, an Australian ex-commando, utilises a combination of smoke grenades and infrared goggles to confuse and disorient enemies and then methodically take them out one by one. Vasily, an English long-range assassin, wields a sniper rifle and a deployable heart rate sensor. And finally, Phantom, everyone's least favourite merc, makes use of refractive armour to turn invisible and a very long sword to cleave enemies to pieces. He also has an EMP blast that will disable any nearby buildings, similar in many ways to the Spy class in TF2. Dirty Bomb has somewhat toned down movement mechanics compared to Brink, but it has retained some types of advanced movement. These are faster movement when a melee weapon is equipped, wall jumps that can be chained together, vertical movement assists such as ladders, tunnels and ramps, and a long jump ability that allows you to jump twice as far as a regular jump. All of these abilities can be combined and chained together to greatly increase speed, agility and verticality on all available maps. Now that's all the mercs and the movement covered, let's have a look at Dirty Bomb's 9 playable maps and their corresponding layouts, descriptions and attacker objectives, as well as a few maps that were cut at some point during development or beta testing. First is Bridge, based on the real life Bridge market area in London. Its description reads, new anti-radiation drugs being developed in the fortified GH medical building? Maybe, but whatever they are, someone wants them. And someone else wants to keep them where they are. A paradox. The things that must stay are the things that must be taken. To resolve, just add mercenaries. Its 3 objectives are to repair the EV, the extraction vehicle, escort the EV to the GH building, and steal the 2 override cores. Second is Castle, based on the real life Tower of London and surroundings, whose description reads, Jackal has decided to attack the Tower of London to harvest the CDA's power core hidden inside. Its objectives are to repair the EV, escort the EV to the tower, and to plant C4 within the tower's courtyard area. Third is Chapel, whose description reads, some data you can't delete remotely. Some encrypted servers live in fortified vaults and need to be wiped with 2 EMP charges, right this minute, before their data can be decrypted. Of course, getting the EMP charges there, carried by an extraction vehicle, through London's old winding streets, tricky. Its objectives are to repair the EV, escort the EV and deliver the EMP charges. Fourth is Dockyard, set in the real life Docklands area. Its description reads, set in the dilapidated docks of East London, Dockyard continues Jackal's desperate bid for the CDA secrets aboard the airship. In this 3-stage objective and stopwatch map, Jackal needs to airlift the CDA's armoured hollow drive from the wreckage using only an EV, military grade C4 and a ton of bullets. Its objectives are to repair the EV, escort the EV and destroy the wreckage. Fifth is Dome, whose description reads, the new CDA containment shield is a miracle of science, a colossal ionic radiation filter that will speed up London's decontamination process tenfold, so they say. It also prevents any aerial surveillance of the inner zone, and it's trapped an airship, one that Jackal seems suddenly very interested in. Strange days. Its objectives are to deliver the data cores, destroy one of the pylons, and to destroy the AA command centre. Sixth is Terminal, whose description reads, 2 rail containers full of documents, a train station, sealed off behind a fortified wall, a last rail link to the world outside the contaminated zone. Why are these hard copy crammed containers so important? As evidence? Of what? Anyway, they need destroying, or protecting. Your mission orders may vary. Its objectives are to destroy the checkpoint gate and to destroy both data archives. Seventh is Train Yard, whose description reads, an incoming armoured train carrying data cores, a carriage blocking its way, a broken bridge off which you can fall to break it open and spill the data cores, a helicopter standing by to extract them. What could possibly go wrong? Okay, different question. What won't go wrong? Its objectives are to destroy the track switch, destroy the blocker carriage, and to deliver the binary detonators. Eighth is Vault, one of my favourite maps. Its description reads, Jackal have unlocked the secrets of the hollow drive, unearthing a detailed schematic of the containment shield's power systems. To overload these systems, First port of call is a giant CDA vault storing 2 backup power cores in central London. Its objectives are to destroy the AA command centre, destroy the vault doors with C4, and to deliver the 2 power cores. Finally, there's Underground, based on a London Underground tube station. Its description reads, "On the day of the actual Dirty Bomb event, this station was used as an evacuation centre, then a morgue, then a CDA control centre, as they built the containment wall sealing off the contaminated zone, and now there's some kind of archive in the lower levels. Shame if it got flooded and all that evidence erased, eh?" Its objectives are to destroy the fan control room and to destroy the pump controls. Dirty Bomb has 3 separate currency types that you want to keep track of, as well as a wide selection of collectible cards of varying rarity, ranging from bronze, silver, gold, all the way up to cobalt. Firstly, there are experience points, the EXP, the stuff that you need to refill so you can level up an ability or skill, as well as more general levelling. Secondly, there are the credits, also won from hard-fought battles against the enemy, and can be used to purchase new cards and packs in the store. And finally, there are the fragments, the rarest of the 3, which can be used to craft new loadout cards once enough fragments have been accumulated. Fragments can be earned by completing the daily missions on certain days and recycling weapons and other cards. Splash Damage have been developing games since their start in 2001 with the Quake mod Quake 3 Fortress. From 2002 to 2007, the company worked on multiplayer maps and modes for several notable games, including Return to Castle Wolfenstein, Doom 3, Wolfenstein Enemy Territory, and Quake Wars Enemy Territory. They then began development on Brink in early 2008, and as they say, the rest is history. Fast forward a bit to June 2015 and Splash Damage's new release Dirty Bomb has just entered its open beta phase on Steam after around 2 years of closed beta testing. At this early point in its release, the game is getting just over 13,000 players per day. So far, so good, right? Well, yes, actually. For now at least. At this point in its release, Dirty Bomb received generally favourable reviews from players and critics. However, a couple months later, the problem of player retention reared its ugly head, and Dirty Bomb had begun losing players at a steady rate of around 300 to 400 a month. By the time June 2016 rolled around, 13,000 had become 4,500, and the decline node showed no signs of stopping or even slowing. And sure enough, by October of that same year, the player count had again been reduced from 4,500 down to 2,800. Splash Damage identified several possible reasons for the dwindling player count, one of which appeared to be the disparity between new and veteran players in both casual and ranked matchmaking. Splash Damage's solution to this was simply to remove both types of matchmaking from the game entirely, as well as the party system along with it. As you can probably guess, this did not fix the issue. It was shortly after this that the execution game mode and its maps were cut from the game, with nothing new to replace it, which probably didn't help matters either. It was shortly after these happenings in July 2018 that Dirty Bomb's player count hit an all-time low, dwindling from the previous 2,800 to a new count of 1,200. It was likely that Splash Damage were most likely beginning to see the writing on the wall at this point, and despite further last-ditch efforts to revitalise the game with new features such as Face It integration, as well as frequent bug fixes and some redesigned maps, the numbers just continue trending downward. Infrequent updates certainly didn't help, neither did the rumour circulating at the time in 2019 that Splash Damage had begun work on a new project, which, if it was true, or if there was even an element of truth to it, at the very least would result in less available developers to work on Dirty Bomb, only heightening the game's already existing issues. It was plagued by hackers. Presumably this was before DB started using Easy Anti-Cheat client as it does now. It was beginning to look dated in terms of graphics compared to the competition, having been made in Unreal Engine 3, an engine which had been succeeded by Unreal Engine 4 back in 2014, and also DB ultimately only ever seemed to be able to appeal to a very niche audience, a large portion of which was the same kind of people who played Wolfenstein Enemy Territory. Now, having a small and dedicated fanbase is not a bad thing, but it did little to boost player numbers or engagement. They basically kind of pigeonholed themselves into their niche and only seemed to realise this after the fact, and by that time there wasn't really much they could do to change that fact. Amidst all this turmoil and disaster, Dirty Bomb nonetheless went ahead and released the version 1.0 update in August 2018. Against all odds, the player count actually increased during this time, jumping up from 800 to 4,000. But it wasn't all smooth sailing from here. During this time, the game was plagued by a lengthy list of performance and server issues, as well as receiving complaints from the community over some mercs being poorly balanced or implemented. By the time January 2019 rolled around, the player count had dropped from its peak of 4,000 back down to 1,000 or less. Community members seemed to think that this was due, at least in part, to Splash Damage being unable to deliver on promised future updates or tweaks, for example, crafting improvements, weapon polishing, a public test server, an SDK for modders, more maps, Steam trading, and balance updates, to name just a few. Of course, none of these ever materialised. I'm really torn about what to think of Splash Damage. On the one hand, they did create Dirty Bomb, which is one of my favourite multiplayer FPSs and one of the best games I've ever played. I still do play almost every day. On the other hand, I really don't know what the fuck they were thinking. Like, this game had so much potential. It's just Brink all over again, you know. The idea was brilliant, but the execution was just so poor, man. Like, it had so much potential, but they didn't seem to know what to do with it. Total fucking waste of, you know, absolute gem of a game. So, by the end of October 2018, with Dirty Bomb averaging about 400 to 500 players concurrently, Splash Damage pulled the plug, officially ending live development. The one silver lining in all of this is that they did at least decide to keep the server infrastructure up and running and remove all monetization features, as they recognised that the game still had a very small but very loyal base of players who wished to continue playing, and still do today. So, now that brings us up to the present day. Dirty Bomb has a small but consistent and extremely loyal player base, generally averaging 50 to 100 players concurrently at pretty much any time of day. So, I'd say that about covers the basic overview of Dirty Bomb. So maybe now you want to get involved, find a server to join, or even try to create one yourself. Well, no worries, I've got you covered. To join a server, all you need to do is boot up the game, press play, and then click on the server browser, which will usually show up looking something like this. Only one game active at the moment, but usually there's at least 2 or 3 running at any one time. Do bear in mind that all of these servers are run by different people, hence the differing names, locations, and, you know, when I say locations, I mean like latency, like there'll be wildly different pings, different player counts, and then all the, like, the in-game variables like friendly fire, weapon damage, speed of objective completion, gravity, class limits, map rotations, and, you know, just like anything you can think of really. The good thing is, no matter when you log on, you'll almost always find a match being played. I'd say in my experience about 90% of the time, maybe 95%. But what if you want to create a server of your own? Well, all you need to do is head over to nitrado.net, type in Dirty Bomb in the game search, select how many slots you want in the server, select your preferred payment method, tweak any parameters you feel like tweaking on the server dashboard, and there you have it, your very own in-game server. So yeah, I'd say that's about it. Thanks for watching and hope to see you in game. Adios!